accused side.
They would not let our witness in. They
View the evidence.
We love them. Go back to law school.
Watch out.
Coming down?
No, you're good. You're good.
We're gonna check out Trump! He wanted to abuse too!
Fight back now, buddy!
Mr. Cosby prepared to go to prison!
Be quiet! Let them speak!
Mr. Cosby, you prepared to go to prison, sir!
Push your flag against that bumper. Out of the street.
We're not freaks. That's all, buddy.
Lives matter. It's not a race thing. It's about justice.
Amen. Amen.
Rot in jail. Go to hell. Rot in jail. Go to hell. Justice has to be in Hollywood, and I'm so
Yeah, and there's no question about that. This was a huge decision by the judge this time, based on an unrelated court decision that said, yes, this time around the prosecution may bring 5 additional accusers to the witness stand as part of the story against Bill Cosby, as opposed to the one who was allowed last time. The one last time, to be perfectly candid, I did not think was perhaps the most effective witness. Her sense of when her incident with Cosby occurred was wildly back and forth in terms of when it happened, literally years apart. Did it happen at this time or at that time? And it made it tough for her story to resonate. The 5 accusers this time around, I think, told pretty effective stories, quite frankly. All of them a similar mode. Bill Cosby befriends them, becomes a mentor, becomes sort of a father figure for them, and over time sees them clearly as a romantic conquest to be had, drugs or gives them alcohol, and then sexually molests them. That was their allegation. And interestingly, and this is kind of I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here on the legal terminology here, what happened is the judge says with these additional 5 accusers, you may come to trial and testify for the sole purpose, really, of trying to make the prosecution point that this is not a mistake. It's called absence of mistake. In other words, Bill Cosby could not have mistakenly believed Andrea Constand was a willing sex partner, and that he didn't know that what he was giving her was going to cause her to be incapacitated. It couldn't have been a mistake. Why? Well, because look, it's happened before. So these 5 witnesses are there to say, look, there's a pattern of prior bad acts, it's called, and that says to the members of the jury, not really thinking this is a mistake because he's done this kind of thing before. So that testimony, I have to believe, was important for this jury. Again, we obviously haven't spoken about it. I'm sure jury members. I'm not sure we'll be able to in the hours and days ahead. But at the moment, anyway, one would have to believe that testimony, which was far more numerous and more powerful in my view, was key in this case. Here goes the Cosby team heading out. Police, as you can see, trying to keep the crowd under control here on bikes. And they're now trying to create a bit of a wall here so that folks don't get in the way. This is the actual vehicle, I believe, that Cosby is in. Like the police are doing a good job of keeping things under control. Make sure nobody gets hurt there. There's the supporters and Cosby detractors out here. There goes the Cosby team.
Perseverance and uplift, Mr. Cosby.
Manhood Scholarship, Perseverance, Uplift. Ooh.
Vicious. How do I describe the judge? Overtly arrogant,
and collaborating with the district attorney. How do I describe the counsels for the accusers? Totally unethical. How do I describe many, but not all, general media? Blatantly vicious entities that continually disseminated intentional omissions of truth for the primary purpose of greedily selling sensationalism at the expense of a human life. Historically, people have challenged injustices. I am grateful to any of the jurors who tenaciously fought to review the evidence, which is the rightful way to make a sound decision. Ultimately, that is a manifestation of justice based on facts, not lies. As a very special friend once stated, truth can be subdued but not destroyed.
All right.
Moreover, I express humongous gratitude to counselors Brian McMonagle and
I'm pretty sure Johnny Cochran and Robert Kardashian is looking down, smiling, saying, we left the legal world in good hands today. We see right now in this courtroom, we had a witness, Margot Jackson, who is a current Temple employee, who has been there over 30 years, who roomed with Andrea Constant when they were on the road together. They were roommates when they traveled with the basketball team. This woman remembers Constant saying that she could set a rich guy up like Bill Cosby. She saw the Max Factor Air commercial, the case, and she had the opportunity to see that and say, somebody has done that to me and I could do that. They would not let our witness in. They promised Mr. Cosby a fair and impartial trial. The Lady of Justice has to be frowning right now because the three attributes that accompanies her is a blindfold, a scale, and a sword. The blindfold represents impartiality. The scale represents a balance. The sword represents justice, fair justice. And today they tried to prevent that. But Brian McMonagle showed that Andrea Constant, along with Gloria Allred, took an opportunity and seized up on it to distort.
Looks like they're definitely ramping up the security.
The anatomy of a legal lynching. I've been uncomfortable since April 26th when the jury came back with a verdict of guilty for the Cosby case. I realized he was tried in the court of public opinion. Mr. Cosby was painted as a serial rapist. However, after having been privy to the testimonies of the uncredible 5 witnesses and the one he is officially on trial for, Andrea Constant, I saw the lies unfold. So since we got 30-second clips of what the media and the world wanted us to believe about Mr. Cosby, I've compiled some of the press conferences from his spokespeople for you to hear the uncut version, to hear the lies, the inconsistencies that prevailed throughout this entire trial. This is about the discrediting of an African-American icon, destroying his legacy. If we can remove Black people and the contributions that they've contributed. Their greatness can never be celebrated. So since most people get their information in 30-second clips, sit down and listen to the spokespeople for Mr. Bill Cosby.
Good morning.
And connect the dots for yourself. This is the anatomy of illegal lynching.
Good morning.
By a woman who
District
was
Attorney
there.
Kevin Steele indicated in his opening statement that Andrea Constant will testify to the alternative facts that she testified to last year, with even more inconsistencies. Our new defense team has had the opportunity to thoroughly research her testimony and statements from last year, and will point to even more inconsistencies. Or in the words of the prosecution's celebrity distractor Janice Dickinson, showed that Andrea Constant would probably call her alleged relationship with Mr. Cosby poetic licensing. We expect once the jurors hear the testimony of Andrea Constant that they should find Mr. Cosby not guilty of all charges. Have a great morning. Thank you.
Morning, Bill. Big Bill.
I want to ask you about the incident on Friday.
This was Steele. She has been trying to deter me from speaking to the media. She confronted me in the courtroom after our lunch break on last week and stated that, Andrew, we don't do press conferences, and you're not to do press conferences on our steps, and we only do press conferences on people losing their dogs and their animals. I want to say to Kate, this is the place, I thought this was the place where the Constitution was drafted. And I thought several amendments were done to the Constitution, specifically the First Amendment, which gives me the same right as anyone else of freedom of speech to speak about what's going on in the courtroom, to talk about this case, to talk about that this case is a frivolous case. It should have never been brought by Steele. This case is costing the taxpayers, we're guesstimating this year, $1.5 million. You drive around Montgomery County, you see roads with potholes, you see our schools in this area deteriorating, and you're gonna spend $1.5 million on a case, a frivolous case, when you have a witness on the stand right now who has changed her testimony, who has been impeached on the witness stand at least over 6 times, and you're gonna try to stop me from speaking. Why? Because you're afraid of the citizens of Montgomery County getting the truth and hearing the facts of what's going on in this court.
What was significant today in cross-examination? What did Mr. Mesereau do that you think was noteworthy?
Well, I think Mr. Mesereau showed that Ms. Constant is trying to alter her testimony. She signed a sexual assault training form that showed that she had the training. Now, here's what's really specific.
How does she change her testimony there? I mean, she's
last year she did not say that. Last year she said she had no training in sexual assault. But here's the big key.
And now
she admitted today that she knows Margot Jackson. She said she didn't know Margot Jackson last year. She never heard of Margot Jackson. He said, do you know Marguerite Jackson? She said, no, I know a Margot Jackson. So that's a big component. Margot was a roommate of Constant. They roomed on the road. And that's when Constant made the announcement to her that she was going to set somebody up who was rich and famous and she could make a lot of money.
And the
So
defense
Wyatt,
would
you
call
describe
she's
this
still
lawsuit
saying-
settlement as sort of getting rid of a nuisance. The number in there is $3.38 million. Mr. Mesereau this morning described that number as, quote, enormous. Do you write an enormous check to get rid of a nuisance lawsuit?
Everybody does that. A lot of celebrities do that
They write
when they want
enormous
when they want to move on. But you look at the fact of at that time when Mr. Cosby was at the height of his career. The Cosby Show was doing well over probably hundreds of millions of dollars. So $3,380,000 is nothing when you're trying to savage hundreds of millions of dollars. And they had an agreement that she would not be.
Mr. himself described it as enormous, though. He didn't describe it as nothing money the way you're.
No, it is an enormous amount of money, but still comparing it to what Mr. Cosby was making, it is small change compared to what he was making, trying to salvage and move on with his life. And he moved on with his life for years. This case is all about a political agenda. Still says that I'm going to fuel my political ambitions. I'm going to bring a frivolous case against Mr. Cosby. And he did a Willie Horton-style campaign ad. And that's why Mr. Cosby is in this courtroom. You heard from 5 distractors who brought nothing to this case. They brought a lot of, in the words of Janice Dickinson, poetic licensing, alternative facts to the case. She said, I lied to get a paycheck, right? Media heard that. So I expect media to report that. But to Kate Delano, if she's around today, I'm out here. I'm going to be out here every day speaking on Mr. Cosby's behalf and putting the truth and facts out that media has ignored.
What did she say to you specifically? Andrew, what did she say to you specifically? Andrew.
What are you out here doing interviews? Not doing interviews on the courthouse. I don't know her reason. I think you should ask her. Thank you.
What you were saying earlier about the amount of money, the case you're trying to make about the amount of money that was paid out of the settlement.
Well, when you look at the amount of money that Mr. Cosby was making at that time, Mr. Cosby was at the height of his career. The Cosby Show was generating over hundreds of millions of dollars. So he wanted to get on with his life. As Tom Mesereau explained in his opening statement, they were dealing with the death of his son. Matter of fact, his son it would have been 49 years old on yesterday in his Cosby. They were dealing with the death of his son. He had been extorted by a young lady, Autumn Jackson, who said that he was her father, tried to extort him for $40 million, and she did prison time because of that. He just wanted to get this out of the way. He wanted to move on with his life and his career. So he settled out of court, like a lot of celebrities do, and entertainers and athletes. They settle out of court to make things go away and move on with their lives. So $3,380,000 was a small amount for him to move forward in his life.
As far as the phone records that were introduced today and the fact that there is no phone call between, I guess, Ms. Constand's cell phone, Temple Issue cell phone, and Mr. Cosby's house. The significance of that.
Very significant. It was very significant last year. If you were at the trial last year, you saw where they went through all of the phone records. They showed that she made over 70 plus calls to this man and she claims that raped her. And then she calls him on Valentine's Day. Now think about that. They were having an affair. Mr. Cosby is sitting in this courtroom for what many men have done and are doing right now this second, having extramarital affairs. And you bring him in here for this?
Maybe I missed something. I thought he was trying to make the point that she did not call him at any point in time in the first 2 weeks of January, and that was significant. I was wondering if you might comment on how that's significant.
Well, it's significant, but what's bigger in that point what he was making was the fact that she called him on Valentine's Day and she claimed that this rape happened before Valentine's Day. And she called him at least 5 or 6 times. That's what's significant.
Mr. Wyatt, do you think the prosecution is driving home that it was something that Mr. Cosby gave her? Do you find a difference in the fact that she actually was offered the medication and then took it, or?
Well, she was offered the medication, and if you were at the trial last year, it came out that the medication was Benadryl. And we had a toxicologist to say that 1 Benadryl, 2 Benadryls don't make you woozy and wobbly. What they have done with the help of Gloria Allred and her daughter Lisa Blasphemous Bloom, they have altered the script. Like I said last week, they did a Ocean's 11 style script where they were going to take a casino for $150 million, but the casino was Bill Cosby. And they decided to say, let's find a way to extort him. So they have given these women, these distractors, a script. this year for this trial, still knows that he has a weak case, still knows that this case should not be here. He knows that without this case, he cannot move up the political ladder. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. After hearing the closing arguments from our defense team, we can say with confidence that these charges should have never been brought against Mr. Cosby. The district attorney closed his case after reviewing the evidence, both from Ms. Constant and from Mr. Cosby. What we have all seen here throughout this trial and last trial is a district attorney that was obsessed with catching a big fish, just like their star witness, Andrea Constant. You heard our attorneys go through details and details and details that the Commonwealth refused to take a look at. They overlooked all of this evidence, all of these details that point to the fact that Mr. Cosby was nowhere near Pennsylvania when the alleged incident occurred. What I say to you today, what I say to the media, what I say to everyone, report the facts, report the truth. This was a consensual relationship. What happened to make it turn bad, we will never know. What we do know is Andrea Constant was not telling the truth. What we now know and what we all understand is that the jury should acquit Mr. Cosby of all of these charges simply based on the fact that she lied. But if they don't base it off of that, they can base it on the fact that this case was brought to light after the statute of limitations. Again, I say to you media, print the truth. Tell the facts. The evidence that you sat in the courthouse and witnessed with me for 2 weeks. Where are those facts? No more sensationalism. Tell the truth.
Good afternoon. Today we heard two of the best closers, Kathleen Bliss and Tom Messer of 2013. What they laid out for us today, that the dates don't fit, so this jury must acquit Mr. Cosby all charged. When you look at the dates, you understand now that Mr. Cosby was not in Philadelphia during the alleged attack that Ms. Constant has claimed. We found out, and what we already knew, is that Ms. Constant is like Robin Hood. She steals from the wealthy, but she gives to herself opposed to the poor. She conned Mr. Cosby out of $3.4 million. She created this scheme just so she could make a name for herself, and now she comes back and helps the district attorney try this case when they told Mr. Cosby was over and done with, that he could move on with his life. He could enjoy his family, he could enjoy his career. We see corruption at its best today. We see a district attorney who used Mr. Cosby for his political ambition. We see a district attorney who ran a political campaign ad, a Willie Horton-style political campaign ad, saying, if you elect me, I will bring Bill Cosby to justice. This place right here is for justice. But what's going on in courtroom A is not justice. I feel and believe that when the jury gets back into that deliberation room, and when they hear from whomever they're going to hear from, it's going to be said to them, this man is innocent of all these charges. It's going to be said to them that Andrea Constant made up these fantastical stories in order to get rich. They're not going to even get to look at the case because they're going to look at the statute of limitations and see that the district attorney waited a year too late. We feel, though, that Mr. Cosby is innocent. It will be shown that he's innocent. We feel that this scheme and con, and Andrea Constant's scheme and con, along with her attorneys, who helped her out with this scheme against Mr. Cosby, it has been revealed today. It will continue to be revealed. But most importantly, we feel that Mr. Cosby will get on with his life. We feel that he will be able to resume his career. And he will be able to get the respect back that the media helped Andrea Constant take away from him. Today, you will hear from the district attorney's office. We'll probably hear a bunch of excuses and lies, but one thing you're gonna notice today, it was a weak case. And it was a case with no merit. You heard still, before we left and got dismissed, upset and angry that in our closing, it was mentioned that Mr. Cosby is 80 years old and legally blind. He is legally blind. That's why I lead him every day into the courtroom. I wish he could see. I wish he could be able to see how people have used him, his generosity and his kindness, for their own selfish gain. I wish he could see and read what the media says, how they invade that, how they invade. I wish he could see that Andre Constant is a habitual liar. But the beauty of it, when you lose one sight, another sense enhances. He can hear. He can hear the truth. He can hear the facts. And we believe and we feel that he will be found not guilty of all charges. And that this jury is astute enough to look at the statute of limitations and dismiss this case and let Mr. Cosby go home and enjoy his family and enjoy his life. Thank you.
She's such a doll. She's so pleasant.
Great. What's her name? Isabella is out here to get the book signed. Here comes Mr. Cosby now. Isabella?
Mr. Cosby! We love you!
Look how good you look!
I'ma back up. I don't want to see when he went off.
Justice for Cosby! Justice for Cosby! Free Mr. Cosby! Free Mr. Cosby!
You're the man.
Freedom for Cosby! Miserable! He was great today! Free Bill! Free Bill! Free Bill! Free Bill! Free Bill! Free Bill! Free Bill!
Nana, get over here.
The Cosby Bill! Free Bill! Free Bill! Free Bill! Free Bill! Free Bill! Yes! Free Bill! Free Bill! Free Bill! We believe in Mr. Cosby! We believe Cosby!
Great, Isabella.
Free Bill now! Free Bill now! We believe Mr. Cosby! Bill Cosby now! Have a great weekend, Mr. Cosby! Come back Monday to decimate her and get on the stand with our lives!
What? You don't have to pay again. 3.4 is a lot of money. Leave them alone.
Yeah! Great day! Great day, Andrew. Great day. Live at Mr. Cosby's home in Elkins Park, PA, after a devastating day in court where 12 jurors found him guilty of all 3 counts. Absolutely absurd. They must have been in a different courtroom than the rest of us. No evidence necessary, only your word is necessary to convict a man. A woman that's been to this house, not through the front door, but the back door several times. A woman who called this man several times. A woman who was not given medication without her permission. She accepted it and took it. Assassination, modern day lynching going on for black men in America. We will take away whatever you've contributed to this world and erase the memory of all you've contributed. All they have to do is say you did it. Well, there's a quick little message to those of you who still don't understand the power of white supremacy. Watch the switch. The rest of his life, 10 counts on each one of the charges. 80 years old. All that needed to be said was, he did it. No penetration. She even had an orgasm and masturbated him with her hand. Yet, there are several real predators still free, still home with their families. Bill Cosby has been lynched 2018.
Just arrived at the Church of the Overcomer. It's a pretty little church to see how we can get out the truth about this vicious kangaroo court for Cosby.
Good afternoon. What's your name?
Isabella.
Isabella. Did you hear what happened today?
Yes.
What did you hear?
I heard that he's guilty.
He who?
Bill Cosby.
How's that making you feel?
Really, really sad.
Why?
Because at first we thought that he was not guilty, but then found out the results.
So, he signed your book for you, right?
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
Happy.
Did he say anything special to you that you'll remember?
It was a nice time meeting you.
That's great. And you have the book
Yes.
with his signature. Look at that.
Did not happen. Like nothing just happened.
That's the signature that Mr. Cosby put in your book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have that forever, for always. Is there anything you'd like to say to Mr. Cosby?
If I had to, I would tell him that it's a really good time meeting you, and I would want to meet him, and I would come back, and I really want to meet him once again. And I'll pray for him.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Can I lend him a hand? Let him still be a man. Will I run or stand by his side? Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Am I my brother's teacher? Yes, I am. Am I the one to reach him? Yes, I am. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. When he's pushed to the edge, when he's out on the ledge, can I help him to think with his heart? When he's wrong, when he's right, I'll be there to remind him he's made in the image of God. When he struggles with troubles, he needs to know that his mistakes don't define his life. I'm a living example that there is a chance for